so stylized. Even the kids are creepy themselves, the way they look, everything.
What do you think she looks like under there?
Drive-by movies you're watching.
Fresh releases.
My name is Blaze.
And my name is James.
And this week we're talking the brand new Amazon original movie, Goodnight, Mommy.
You are my mother! You are my mother!
You'll learn to love me someday.
Amazon's Goodnight, Mommy is a remake from the 2014 Austrian film. It's about twin brothers who arrive at their mother's house and begin to suspect that something is just not right. You can say that. This movie stars the boys, or the little boy from the show The Boys, and then also Naomi Watts in, apparently, fun fact, her 7th remake of her career that she has starred in, which I found interesting. I can't name all 7 of those off the top of my head, but interesting fact. This is an Amazon original right now that we got to see. It's a remake of a film that we have seen and reviewed on our old podcast that you can't really find anywhere. It's still on YouTube a little bit if you search dig and deep into the dark web, I guess. But do you remember what you thought about that movie, Blaze? Because I'll just say it off the bat, I really disliked that movie. This movie, I'll get into it after I hear your thoughts on the original.
Yeah, I remember hating the original film, the original Austrian movie. Like, I remember the trailer being like really stunning and like it just was something to really look at, and then being like really excited for the movie. Then we go and see the movie, and I just remember absolutely hating it. I don't really know why. And actually, while watching this movie, I was like, wait, why did I actually hate the original? But I'm gonna trust my gut and not go back and rewatch it. I'm gonna trust my gut that I was right and hated it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, I'll just did like a quick reread of the Wikipedia. I just remember mainly the mom I disliked in the original. She was very cruel, but then the kids were just evil little shits to where I just like almost felt bad for the mom despite her being so cruel. There was like no one to root for in the original one. But now with this new remake, though, a lot of people are calling it like unnecessary, and I have to 100% agree. Like a lot of it for the most part is pretty much the same for the most part, but I actually somewhat enjoyed this one a little bit more. I liked the flip on kind of making the mom super cruel and you kind of rooting for the kids, and then when it's time for the kids to get evil and sadistic towards the end, it's not overly sadistic like the original Blaze. I don't know if you remember, but they super glue the mom's lips at one point, then cut it open again with scissors. It's bloody and just very cringy. There wasn't those kind of moments with it, despite it still being very, creepy-esque. Like some of the more horror elements in this one are more nightmare sequences, which I don't remember from the original. But, and then, when we finally get to the like twist of the movie too, like it's spelled out a little bit better with this one. But yeah, I don't want to get too much into spoilers just yet until I hear your thoughts, though.
Yeah, honestly, I kind of, I guess, fall along the same lines of people being like, this movie's absolutely pointless, because it tries to do something a little bit different than the original, of not being so savage or, like having these really gut-wrenching moments where you just want to look away. But then at the end, it's like kind of like super tame, but then also like more psychological, I guess. But it's not in any way that makes the film better or the message better, because I felt like this film was so much more heavy-handed than the original that's why I didn't like it. I feel like everything is explained throughout the movie. The final sequence of this film is all plot dump exposition that would have been left better to the imagination. But it's almost like they knew that the audience wasn't going to do the legwork to even care about any of these characters, to think up kind of what is really going on, that they're like, we'll just tell them because, the people don't really care. They need to be told everything nowadays. It almost feels like. I mean, I don't think that's really the case, to be completely honest. I actually believe that people like to do digging and research, or like to, investigate in a story that they actually care about. I don't, sit alongside of people being like, oh, people are absolutely lazy nowadays. You need to tell every single plot point to them. You need to explain terraforming in the third act and what terraforming is. They don't know what Wikipedia is. Anyways, yeah, I'm less of a cynic than most people. So other than that, though, yeah, it's just, I mean, I'm saying I'm less of a cynic, and then I'm gonna be like, but I didn't like this movie at all. So I don't know.
I see. Yeah. Yeah, and also, like, I guess I don't want to necessarily compliment this movie because, yeah, I said I enjoyed it more than the original, but that doesn't necessarily mean that I, like, love this movie. Like, I just thought it was fine and stuff versus the other one I just flat out disliked and just found too cruel for my liking, which is surprising. I've seen some of the most effed up movies you can imagine and stuff and still find somewhat interesting things to enjoy. But, you know, I guess just that one just didn't sit with me, even though, like, back then, that's when we were watching, like, the super artsy fartsy movies and stuff. And that would have been a movie that was right up our alley at the time, but just for whatever reason, we weren't fans of it. And this one comes along and stuff. And, like, you know, it's, like, spelled out more for, like, mainstream audiences. I guess that's what probably Amazon was hoping for it and stuff, too, because I don't really know anyone who brings up Goodnight Mommy. I think it's hailed by a lot of, like, you know, the letterbox people that we follow on TikTok and stuff, or through that app itself, that'll be like, Goodnight Mommy is such an underrated horror film that people have forgotten about and stuff. And like, I'm like, I don't mind that it's been forgotten about, but yeah, for the most part, it's still a pretty unknown movie, I'd say, for the most part, even though it's still relatively recent. It's less than 10 years old. But yeah, just this remake I thought was just a easier digest for me, I guess you could say. And that's why I found this one more likable, in my opinion, but not necessarily like made it a great film. Like, I thought the performances were fine the whole time. Like, I forgot about the twist with you know, I guess we can get into it now, but I totally forgot about the twist of like, oh, the brother's dead. They do bring it up in the original when I was doing the quick Wikipedia read, but it's more never spelled out. She just says like, ease in your imagination. It's never flat out said. It's up for your interpretation of whether or not Lucas is there or not. But with this film, though, it's spelled out. No, the brother is dead and stuff. He's all been in his head all along and stuff. So yeah.
I think one of the problems mainly with this film is the fact that the original is like so stylized in a sense. Like, it almost exists in like this like imaginary fantasy world in a way. Like, it's so stylized. Even the kids are creepy themselves, the way they look. Everything is just like a very specific color palette that the film uses, and this film tries to follow along those lines, but it also then is like very unstylized in ways. Like here's just a small example of like the mom in the original's face is like super changed from like this plastic surgery, where like Naomi Watts, even the bandages she's wearing almost just don't even look like bandages. They're more like I don't know, like some type of fashion mask in a way. It's not as like it's not as style. Like, this film in general is like less stylized. The way that the kids are, it loses a lot of the elements of creepiness that the original had when it wasn't going too far. But then the film goes too far. Where this, it's like it doesn't have those elements of just underlying creepiness. So then when it doesn't go too far, it almost leaves something to be desired.
I remember with the original, that like the mom was more reptilian looking with her mask. Like, I think it was a little bit more latexy. And I do agree with that because, yeah, it was a little bit more subtle scares, and then it gets into more brutal territory. Versus this one, like, I mean, it's a little unsettling. I'm sure if you're a kid, like, seeing your mom that way for the first time, it's still relatively scary. But I think you can still tell it's like Naomi Watts under there for the most part. But, you know, it's weird that the movie kind of relied for its scares to be these dream sequences that I thought were somewhat effective. Like, one of the more grotesque moments in this movie is the dream sequence where she starts pulling like her hangnail back, and it just keeps going and going. And I was like, I do not need this scene whatsoever. But like, you know, that was an effective one. But that weird like scarecrow sequence or whatever creature that comes through the window, I thought was weird. And speaking of setting too, like stylized is something you brought up. It made sense because it was like a foreign film, like that they were out in the outskirts. But in this movie, she's this rich ex-actress singer or whatever. And why she live in the middle of just like nowhere and stuff too? Like maybe it's established that it's her childhood home, but like she has all this money. She has this very modern-esque home and a crappy barn right next to it in the middle of nowhere where there's no cops. It's just rangers that do quick check-ins and stuff too. Like that just seemed weird with the American setting of this movie too. I just find that kind of hard to believe.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, overall, I feel like if you like the original, this film's probably not for you. If you're like dipping your toes into horror this Halloween, you actually might have a really fun time with this movie just being something like different that you're probably not used to. I felt like this movie's plot is definitely original, and that's one of the reasons why they remade this film. So it's probably for that audience that dips into Amazon Prime for Halloween to check out just some type of horror movies and get their toes wet. So this film's probably perfect for that.
Yeah, I'd recommend it for people who are like in their senior year of high school, freshman year of film college and stuff. You're gonna love this movie with the twist in it. It's gonna feel very artsy fartsy in that way per se, but like, you know, like I feel like a lot of people who are like, dipping into horror for the first time are looking for movies that have deeper meanings at an early entry in their film interests. Like this is the movie that's probably gonna like resonate well with them. But if you're like a critic who sees hundreds of movies a year, or like, you know, film enthusiasts or lovers like us that see dozens to maybe a couple hundred movies a year, like what's it called? Like it's just whatever for the most part. Yeah, let us know what you thought about the movie itself. You could rent it through through our Amazon affiliate link in our description box below. It's also on Amazon Prime. After doing that, leave a comment letting us know what you thought about the movie. It's a great way to help support this show.
And if you guys haven't already, go ahead and smash that like button, hit the subscribe button, and click the notification bell to get all of our latest updates.
And if you can't get enough of us here on YouTube, catch all our social media links down below. We got Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, and our own personal letterbox accounts. That'll conclude this week's episode. Tune in next week for a brand new video, guys.